Instagram, and now on Facebook.
Hi, welcome to It's So Friday. It's the second week of January, but it kind of feels like the first week still because everyone's been sick around the office. We're finally getting better and we're ready to tackle this new year. And it seemed like a really great way to jump right into 2018 would be to explore our third ever Kona Color of the Year, Tiger Lily. Now this year it's this beautiful red-orange kind of vintagey modern feel, and we've been having a really great time with it, especially seeing what all of our designers have done with it and what they each feel this color adds to their stash. Today we are going to be working on a project designed specially for us by Karen Lewis. It's called the Giant Pineapple. So if you're following along on Facebook, the link above in this post will have the pattern link. And if you're not, and if you're following on Instagram, just hop on over after this video to the Robert Kaufman website and search for the Giant Pineapple. Now, this quilt is called the Giant Pineapple because it's a giant pineapple block. I know, but I'm excited. The tools that you're going to need for this experience today are your rotary cutter, a long ruler. This one is 24 inches by 6 inches. And you'll actually be cutting pieces longer than that in your prep. So if you have a really long mat, like this one that all my stuff is on top of, if it goes at least 30 inches, that's going to make it a lot easier to cut the pieces that you need. If you're working with a smaller mat, you can still make those cuts. You're just going to have to fold a lot more, and it can be a little frustrating. I find a little roll of washi tape very, very helpful for this kind of project where you're doing a lot of cutting up front and you need to label your pieces, especially because when you get all your pieces laid out, a piece that's 4 inches by 26 inches looks kind of the same as a piece that's 4 inches by 30 inches. And if you use the wrong one and then trim it, then you have to go and find more fabric and cut later, and it's just a lot of drama you don't need. It can be avoided by some washi tape and a permanent marker. The permanent marker dries really quickly on the washi tape, so I don't worry about accidentally smearing my ink onto my next piece of fabric when I stack on top. I've actually already done this, so I'm going to set these aside for now. You're going to want a marking tool for your fabric, so if you use an erasable pen like a friction pen, that would work. This one is a Clover water erasable marker, so the line would stay on and it won't go away until you wash the quilt. I haven't actually used this one in my personal life sewing before, but we used it around here and it works great. If you're making this pattern, you're also going to need, like I said, the pattern and obviously your Kona Color of the Year. Now the directions will also give you all the other Kona colors that you need to make this exact quilt, but if these colors aren't totally your jam, you can also mix and match, kind of decide how you want your giant pineapple to look. So let's get down to business. I, as you can see, have already pre-cut and labeled everything. The cutting took me probably like an hour and 10 minutes of interrupted cutting. Just so you know, it's not a ton of prep work, but you do need to sit down and do it. The nice point is that all of your widths are 4 inches, so you're just consistently cutting 4-inch strips of all these different colors. It's not like you have to remember that this one is 2 inches and this one is 3.5. Over here is 6 and over here is 8.2. So the 4 inches makes it pretty easy to get that right. While I'm cutting, and this is just some of my best practices, you can do whatever you want, but for me, I tend to get a little confused between what color is listed here and what color is over here. And so as you can see, I've marked up my map of the quilt with the letters over here that correspond with the cut pieces over here, just so I could see what I was doing. And then as I cut my pieces, I marked them off, and when I finished a color, then I crossed it out entirely here, because then I knew I'd cut all my pieces, have them all labeled. And I only cut one extra piece twice on accident, so it does help to kind of stay a little organized there. All right, the process for sewing this quilt is going to be the same steps over and over and over again. You'll build your pineapple like Each square you'll attach 4 sides and then you'll trim. You'll attach 4 more sides and then you'll trim. You'll attach 4 more sides and then you'll trim. So at any point when you get tired of doing this, you could stop. You could make your quilt into a pillow. You could just make this. You could make smaller blocks and do multiple and have several medium-sized pineapples making up a quilt. Or you could make just this one, call it the giant pineapple, or you could just keep going and keep adding rows and rows and rows. You just need bigger strips of fabric. All right, so we're gonna jump right in. Oh, also important, ironing station. We're going to be ironing quite a bit in this one. So, let's set all this aside, see how it goes. Now you start, and I'm going to just push all my little, I have them in line for how I'm going to need to grab them. So I have the very center of my quilt, which is this beautiful yellow square. And I have 4 pieces that are labeled 1A. They're all the same size, and I'm going to attach on each side like this. Now you'll see that there is a little bit of an overhang, so you're just going to want to center. If you're really feeling particular, you could fold your centerpiece in half and fold the white piece in half and match your center mark lines and pin. And if you've watched So Fridays for a while, you know how I feel about pinning, which is, and if you're new to So Fridays, I feel like you can pin if you want to, but if you don't have to, then why would you? I like to just jump right in and do it. And also, if you want to eliminate the number of times you have to keep going over to press, if you don't want to press every single seam, instead of sewing this one and then sewing this one, if you sew this side and then this side along the bottom, then you can consolidate your pressing trips into 1 pressing trip instead of 2. Well, you know, for this one time, and then you'll have to go and do it again. I'm using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. It's my scant 1/4 inch actually, and sewing on the Janome 8900, which is a nice, fast, quiet machine. All right, so now I'm ready to press, and you can see that my washi tape here with my marking is still on there. You should take that off before you iron it. It's not super fun when you iron over it. I don't think it matters which way you press your seams, whether you're going to press them open or press them out or press them in. I just think you should be consistent. So whatever you decide works for you, you just do that. I think that that will work in your favor. Also, since we're just starting this and I'm really paranoid, what if I like sew the wrong pieces and then Yael just looks at me? I'm just making sure I'm doing it right. I'm doing it right, it's okay. Okay, so now you have this and you need to attach to the tops and bottoms. So again, just at this point you're still going to have that overlap and you just want to line it up as close to center as you can. Unless you're going to exactly line it up in center, then you do that. Whoa. You should also make sure that you're not just lining it up like I just did with the end here. You have to line it up with the yellow piece, or you'll need to find your seam ripper. Ariga, can you find the seam ripper? We didn't bring a seam ripper. You should have a seam ripper for this project too. Because I don't know where we put that. Thanks. All right, we're gonna seam rip that seam and pretend that didn't happen. Usually the boo-boos happen later in It's So Friday. People aren't paying as much attention. When they happen right at the beginning, everyone's like, whoa, does that girl know what she's doing? Does she know how to sew? I know how to seam rip. All right. This time I'm going to line it up with the yellow piece, and you'll notice that you'll have an overlap on here, and that's okay. Okay. So.
Ariga's commenting on your video from this, just so you know.
What'd she say?
She's sending you happy holidays.
All right, so when you do this right, it looks like this. And I'm not too worried if I'm going off the edges just a little bit because you're gonna cut that part off so no one will ever see it. Isn't that great? Very forgiving. It's a nice block, very relaxing. If you've forgotten about a baby shower you have to go to or something, this is a great one that you can put together the day before. Looks super, super difficult, but it's not. Now you're going to open or press again. and you're going to be very impressed with this this block unit you've created. It's really exciting. Whoa, look at that. All right, now we're at the tricky part because we are going to cut off these extra little edges to give you a new flat edge. Now, the important thing that you want to remember is that you want that little point there. Unless you don't, if you're one of those people that's like, no points, do whatever you want, then do whatever you want. But if you want your point, then how you achieve that is you're going to use the 45-degree line on your ruler, which is here, and they're marked on the rulers, and you're going to line that 45-degree up line with either the edge of the white at the end of your block or the edge of your white on the inside here. But you need to make sure that no matter where you line that up, that you keep a 1/4 inch after the point. So I'm going to draw this line and then I'll show you what I'm talking about. And so if you're trying to make it line up, you can slide the 45-degree line along the seam until you get what you want. So I'm going to mark that line and then I'll show you. Oh. So you can see that my marked line is not all the way at the point. If you mark directly to your point when you sew, you're going to lose that point in your seam allowance. Marking that 1/4 inch away leaves the seam allowance there for you to have that nice crisp point. Okay, so now you're going to cut along that line and you're going to repeat that step 3 more times. Trash can's a good thing to have on this one too because there's a lot of trimming involved. And repeat that step 3 more times. And if you are just doing this at home, you don't necessarily need to mark every time. If you're confident that you are not cutting off your point, you can just line it up and cut. Now, if you're uncertain about this technique, it's worth it to do a tiny test block or something first, because you will be doing this a lot. Every single one of the steps in this block is, or in this entire quilt, is just a repeat of that step. And it does take, it takes a little bit of time to make sure you're getting that lined up correctly, but the 45-degree line on your ruler really helps. Okay, where am I? It also helps to have more space. And so you'll see that we're going to outgrow this little bit of workspace pretty quickly in this Sew Friday episode. I'm gonna line this up. Okay, and actually it's easier, I'm finding, now that I'm doing this, to use the inside line to match my 45-degree, because then I can actually see a point where it's hitting the corner. Okay, so when you get your 4 corners, you now have something that looks like this. And now you're ready to attach the next row. So that first row, all these white pieces, their numbers are 1A in the pattern, and then it jumps to 1B. Then it'll go 2A, 2B. So every number is in an AB pair. And A is the first 4 sides, and B is the next 4 sides. So you should start like this, then A will put it on point, and B will put it back, the center, back to being a regular square. It's also good to have the picture around still if you're mapping the colors in a similar way, because like in this specific one, it doesn't really matter yet since it's the first time you're going to see an extra color making a debut, but when you get further along, if you want the colors to match, then it helps to have and say, oh, okay, so in this one there's a mirror, so this one is going to go on 2 sides and the orange will go on the other 2 sides. I like following patterns, but if you prefer to not follow a pattern and just do your thing, then do your thing. On this side now, I want to make sure that I am getting it more centered because I don't want to trim and find out I didn't leave enough room. So what I'm just doing is I'm folding my fabric in half and just pinching, putting a lot of pressure here. Not even ironing, but you'll see that when you pinch, it leaves a nice little dip in your fabric. And I'm going to line that mark up with the corner piece because that's going to be the center of that previous side. And then I will sew again using the 1/4 inch seam allowance. And if you have any questions about the tools that we're using or the fabric that we're using or the pattern we're using or what it's like working at Robert Kaufman or what the weather's like here, or kind of like anything that you might be wondering, you can always ask and I will read out any questions. You can ask what we've been listening to. We have like soundtrack days. Yeah, we're here to answer all the questions and do all the sewing and have all the fun because it's Friday.
So for those of you watching on Instagram, I'm sorry if this camera keeps shifting, but I'm holding it with my hands. And I get a little tired sometimes, so I'm sorry.
Now that I've sewn on 2 more sides, I'm again going to take this over here and press. At this point, I'm pressing from the back, not for any other reason other than the fact that it's a little easier to make sure that my points aren't getting weirdly tucked under. You can press from the front too, it just helps me to be able to see it, so it's like looking kind of nice on the back. And now I'm going to repeat this process with some tiger lily. I don't know if anyone knows this, but orange is my favorite color, and this particular orange I think is beautiful, and I'm a big fan, and I didn't even know what the color of the year was, and they picked orange. I feel like it was just for me. I don't really think that's why, but you know, it's a nice thought. If you are a pinner and you want to pin, you could pin. If you want to just have it set there while you get things ready, you could just do a single pin in the center and it'll, you know, it'll hold that on there okay. It's not going to keep it nice and pretty or anything, but it will keep it attached. And then you won't accidentally sew it to something else. This is my little pin cushion.
For Cluttered Curators asking which Robert Kaufman account is best to tag when you do a project. If it's just regular Robert Kaufman fabric you're using, feel free to tag the Robert Kaufman account. If you're using Kona Cotton, you can tag the Robert Kaufman account and the Kona Cotton account. And if you're doing one of our projects, you can feel free to tag any of those and the Robert Kaufman Projects account. We try to look at all of them, but it does get a little bit crazy sometimes, so sorry if it takes a little bit for us to see them. But we do love all of them.
Okay, so now we're ready to press again. Hey! All right. Over at my pressing station. This project, the beauty of it is that you're not doing complicated piecing, but it grows very quickly. So you go from having like a small quilt to a big quilt very quick. Now, okay, when you're ready to trim this side, instead of, a nice trick is, instead of lining up with your 45-degree angle and trimming, which you could do, if you know that things are pretty straight, you could also line up with the edge like this. And trim, like line your ruler up here and then trim, because that will also do the same thing. So I'm just going to do that, and it's going to make those sides a lot faster to trim, because at this point now I'm not worried about cutting off a point, I don't think. Yeah, actually, I don't think I'm worried about cutting off points for the rest of the quilt. It might have just been that center. I could be wrong, but we'll find out when we get there. Get there together. I haven't made this quilt before, but I do like pineapple blocks and pineapples in general. Pineapple.
Are you a fan of pineapple?
Huh?
You're a fan of pineapple?
I like pineapple, but it has to be good pineapple. Can't be. Some pineapple is too crunchy and not sweet enough. Okay, so now we are ready for the next round, which is going to be the first round of 2. So we just did, like, this is 0 and then A1, or 1A, 1B. And now we're ready for 2A. So if I'm looking at this correctly, I'm going to just look at my colors that I have marked as 2A, and I'm going to look again at my color map, and I'm going to just place them. And using my marker, I'm going to mark what I've already done with big X's, because it's easy to get lost here and say, I don't know what the heck I'm looking at. Okay, so I know that the purple one is going to go at the bottom, and the blue one goes on the right, and this pale one goes on the top, and this one goes on this side. So now, as long as I kind of keep my balance on where I am, I'm going to start with the one on the right. Okay. This one, it gets a little tricky now because you don't have anything really showing you where the center is of your block. So what you're going to look at is, when you line your piece up at the top, look at the overhang and just try and make sure these dog ears look about even. You can see it's more over here. And again, you'll be trimming up some of this, but it does help for it to be like a little centered. Okay. Again, sewing with your 1/4 inch seam allowance. And I'm pausing a little bit when I get to a seam bolt because I want to just make sure that it's not twisting underneath. If any of you have ever pressed your seams to the side and then you are piecing something else and you accidentally turn that seam, when you go to press it later, it's kind of a pain in the neck. Okay.
So someone asked if I think the orange color was tiger lily, and yes, it is.
Yes, it is. And
Very
I
excited
like
about
it.
using it.
It's available in all your shops now, so if you haven't already gone out to see it, it's something you don't want to miss. The beauty of our color of the year is that it's really a limited edition color. It only runs for the 1 year and then we discontinue it. So if it's something that you really love, you're going to want to stock up because it's not always going to be available. Our very first color of the year was a really bright highlight yellow. Our second color of the year, which might still be in the stores but is now discontinued, is called Pink Flamingo. And now we have Tiger Lily. All right.
Whoa.
It's getting really big. Okay. And again, just, you know, as best as you can, lining that up. Did anyone make any 2018 sewing resolutions? Does anyone make lists of what quilts they're going to make or what they want to accomplish this year, just in sewing? I've never made resolutions for real life, but for sewing, I'm always like, here's what I'm going to do this year. I don't know if that's everyone else too, or I'm the odd man out.
We have an online shop. We only sell to wholesale and customers. We do not sell direct to consumer. Color cards on our website. So if you are looking for a new Kona color card, you can find it there. I believe we also still have add-ons for those of you who have an old color card and just want the new 37 colors. You can buy those there as well. Elizabeth, do you know how large this quilt is going to be?
It is going to be 52 inches square, which is why I said that if any of you are working on this and you're like, now I'm done, you can stop kind of any time. So you can make it smaller very, very easily. You could piece it bigger and then cut it down so it's a pillow. You could even start with a smaller center piece, which would then make your quilt grow a little more slowly, but give you some more rows before you stopped. So it's really up to you. And again, here you can see why it's so important to center, because we're going to trim up here along the gray line. But you can see there's barely any overlap on the blue. right at the point. And so if you don't center correctly, then what will happen is your blue will be too far in. You'll have to re-sew that line so that you can trim it up and not worry about it. Because otherwise you can have a hole in your quilt, and no one wants that.
What are some of your sewing resolutions for 2018?
I decided that 2018 I was just going to make stuff for fun and for me to keep, and that maybe my husband would get another quilt. He has one. We've been married for, I don't even know, but we've been together at least like 6 years. The guy has one quilt. I have like 30 personally for me, but I just have a hard time giving them away. So maybe he'll get one this year, but we'll see. That's a big maybe. All right, on to 2B. Let's mark off what we just added on. Ooh, 2B is great because all of them are the same color, so I don't need to worry about which one I attach to which side. I'm just going to take my little pile here, and again, I'm taking my little sticky tapes off before I iron and as I go, and I'm just sticking them here, but if you have a trash can, you can throw them in your trash can too. Now, it can get a little tricky sometimes remembering what side you're attaching to. The most important thing is that you make sure you're working on the new longest edge, or the edge that has multiple points intersecting it. Don't sew your strip over here, which is easy to do with a pineapple because that's not the side you're working on growing right now. And the bigger it gets, it feels like the more confusing it gets, but I have faith that everyone that works on this pineapple is going to have no problem. It's going to be easy breezy.
Yes, this pattern is available on our website. It's called the Giant Pineapple Quilt by Karen Wood. You can find it just by searching for it or by going to the Kona page and looking at the projects in there.
Okay, another thing. Now that the quilt is bigger, you can actually attach all 4 sides without ironing one side yet because they're not overlapping anymore. So I'm just jumping right to the next side. I'm going to actually attach the sides to all 4 sides and then I'll iron. Anytime that I can kind of put off an ironing trip until later, I do. Just gonna shift the quilt again and add the next side.
And how big are the strips? You said they're 4 inches.
They're 4 inches wide, and then the length varies based on the size. So the further out in the pineapple you go, the larger the strip gets. But it's actually, you know, it doesn't feel like it's too big of a strip to manage, the 4 inches. And with the center being a 10-inch square, it makes it look really nice with the size. I think if the strip was smaller, the center would look too big or just not quite right, but it looks really great all together.
Did you pick a matching band on your Apple Watch?
I got this band for Christmas. It's orange, obviously. Orange is my favorite color. I did not pick it just for this. I did pick it because it was orange, and I wear it every day no matter what. And I get especially tickled if I happen to be wearing blue, like a blue jacket or a blue shirt, and then I have an orange watch, and then I'm wearing my 2 favorite colors all in one go, and I didn't even have to do anything special.
Do you prefer sewing standing up or sitting?
I prefer sewing sitting down. Like at home, I'm always sitting down. I feel like it's a little easier on your back if you're sewing for long periods of time. Here though, it is nice standing up because it just, like the table is a really great height. It makes it nice to cut. At home, my cutting table is a standing table because I think it's really hard to sit and get the leverage you need to hold a ruler and a blade. Whereas if I'm standing, I have a lot more control over how I'm holding the ruler down and putting less stress on my arms as I, you know, cut.
So you normally do not pin, but if the strips get really long, do you consider pinning?
If the strips get really long and you're really nervous about it and you want to pin, you can pin. I try really hard in my life to avoid pinning. I will do a lot to not pin. And so, so I don't, but you definitely could, and there would be nothing wrong with it, and it might make it easier for you, especially if you're a newer quilter and you wanted to do this and you're not really confident about how the fabrics are going to move. Then it wouldn't hurt to pin. I just don't like to. I feel like it takes time, and I only have a little bit of time. You know, I only sew at work on Fridays, so the rest of the time I just had to save all my sewing up for the couple hours when I get home at night. And you never know, pinning could just derail that whole thing.
I don't like pins because I drop them all the time.
I do think that what is very important is that if you are going to pin, you need to put your pins back in your pin cushion. And if you're not going to put your pins back in your pin cushion, then you need a magnetic pin tray. Because especially if you have puppies or a kid or bare feet, it's not fun to find the pins later. All right, so we just finished 2B, and as you can see, our quilt is getting pretty big, pretty quick. We're about to go on to row 3. There's going to be 6 rows total, and so again, using my handy dandy, very sophisticated marking what I've already did section, I'm just going to mark off that I've done this, and now I'm going to turn it so that I know what color placement is. And looking at 3, this one gets interesting. Let's see. The purple goes at the top. The bright blue that we haven't used yet goes on the left. There's not even room on the table. The light blue goes on the bottom, and the plain color goes on the right. Okay.
Plain color.
I don't know. What color would you call
it's
this?
like lingerie or ivory.
It's kind of a plain color compared to purple or blue or bright blue or yellow or orange.
Call it like a neutral, maybe.
The neutral goes on this side. All right. So, as long as you have a nice flat surface to kind of lay it out on. See, the strips are getting pretty long. I'm still not pinning. But again, if you like to pin, if pinning is your jam, you go for it. I have a friend who doesn't like to pin at all, but she really likes wonder clips, and so anything that requires pinning, she will use wonder clips for instead, and it works really well for her. I think the most important thing is sewing, or in sewing, is that if it works for you, that's all that really matters. All right, I dropped that piece on the ground. No one even saw. That's another thing, that when you have not a lot of sewing space, if you have all these pieces out, that's why I'm trying to keep the rest of the piles out of the way, because as your quilt top gets bigger, it goes whoosh, it just swoops everything off your table. And if you can avoid that, then you're doing great. Having the extension bed on this sewing machine for this kind of project is really helpful, because it gives you a little more, I feel like it gives you more control here because this is staying flat for longer. If you aren't using an extension bed and you just have your sewing machine that maybe only has like this much of a flat surface, then maybe I could understand wanting to pin, because you don't have this surface that's keeping most of your seam flat and nice. It's almost like a second table. Well, it is kind of a second table. It comes with this machine. Nice and clear.
And like Elizabeth was saying before, you could stop at any time.
Yeah, you know, if you're making a baby quilt, babies are little. They don't need big quilts. I was working on a quilt for my nephew, and before he was born. And when I finally finished it, I held this thing up and I said, oh my gosh, it's like this big. You know how big the baby is? It's like this big. He doesn't need this big quilt. It does help that, like, as he grows, now he has one quilt, because that quilt, it's big. It fits me, so, you know, until he's bigger than me, he doesn't need a new quilt.
It's a good habit multiple quilts.
I mean, okay, I love him. I might make him another quilt. But you all heard my story, my poor husband with his one quilt. So, who knows? In my defense, he is always too warm, so he doesn't use his quilt all year. So I'm always cold, so I don't care if it's spring, summer, or winter, fall. He has a really beautiful quilt, and he doesn't use it most of the time. So, like, 1 month out of the year, he goes, oh wow, it's really cold, I think I'll use my quilt. And the rest of the time it just stays folded up in a cabinet, because if I want to use it, that's his quilt.
Oh really?
So I can't use it. Yeah. So he doesn't really need more than one. I just feel guilty. But I need more for sure, definitely. More. That's the beauty of quilting, is that you can just keep making yourself more quilts.
Is there a particular type of quilt you want to make?
I'm in a bee this year. It's called the Quilting is Friends bee, and we're all going to make a center of a quilt, and we're going to mail it around to each other and just add on, and I think it's going to be really fun. Look how big this quilt is getting. Again, just trim now, lining up your ruler along this line and trim off those extra bits. So yes, I think this year I'm most excited for my Quilting is Friends group quilt, because I'm excited to see what these other quilt designers will add to it. Yeah, you just never know. You like make something and send it out and then see what comes back. Should be really fun. I'm also really excited to go to Disneyland this year. I haven't gone in like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I don't know. Just like thinking about the year, all the things I need to do.
She's got a lot of plans.
Yeah. Quilting and Disneyland's just like, that's it. That's all I got.
At least you know yourself, you know.
That's true. I'm very happy. All right, 3B. Okay, so the blue, this was this way. Now I'm on to the next row, and again I'm going to mark off what I just did so I don't get confused. It can feel confusing even marking it.
Left, don't we?
I know, it's a lot of rows. All right, so in this one there's only one different color, and the rest are orange, and the different color goes here. Yeah.
And the beauty of this kind of quilt is that you can really customize what colors you want to include, or even prints if
Absolutely.
you'd like to throw those in.
Or if you're like me and you just want to follow along with how Karen designed it, you have a really great color map already working. But I do like seeing what everyone always does when they take their own twist on it. Just go for it.
Let's make something like this, and you're done, you should show us.
We should have an It's So Friday project gallery. People made from It's So Friday videos.
We should hashtag that It's So Friday, or
So Friday Make.
something like that. You heard it here first.
This is how our ideas circulate around Robert Kaufman. We kind of like almost half make a joke about something and then go, wait, that would be really cool.
This is a Janome what?
It's a Janome 8900. It's a specialty quilting machine. I've recently been thinking a lot about this machine, and so I think that it's kind of like a multi-tool. It can do everything super well. So it does a great straight stitch. You can move the needle around. So you can have anywhere from like 1/4 to 5/8 inch seam allowance with ease. It sews on buttons. It does zigzags. You can teach it alphabets. Like there's alphabets programmed in, and you can just have it write things. It's a really amazing sewing machine.
And for those just tuning in, this is called the Giant Pineapple Quilt. It's by Karen Lewis. It's a free pattern available for download from our website. You can just type in the Giant Pineapple in the search bar, or you can look at the Kona collection page and look at the projects there. Or if you're on Facebook, you can click on the link that is above this post. Elizabeth's actually making the whole quilt right now, so it's just kind of a testament to how
quick it is.
This quilt can be for a last minute project.
And like I said when the video first started, pre-starting this video, I just did all the prep work cutting this afternoon. It only took about like an hour and 10 minutes or so, and that was while getting up to doing other things and, you know, leaving the room and coming back. It's easy to prep, it's easy to sew. The most important thing is that you label your pieces so that you go quickly, because they are different sizes and all the sizes start to look the same. We're going to press again. Woohoo. And keep in mind, if you want to cut it short and make a pillow, you could do that. It's a very forgiving, fun, easy project. You do need to press between all these steps, because what happens is if you don't press, you might accidentally sew a tuck-in, or you'll have some movement in your fabrics that you don't really want. So even though pressing can be a little tedious, make sure that you do take that time to press it between the sections.
And in case some of you guys don't know, this quilt was part of our 5 designer quilts that we put out with our new color of the year. So there are 4 other ones, and they are all free also and available on our website. So if you do go to the Kona Cotton page and you go to the project section, you'll see 5 tiger lily filled quilts that are all free patterns that you can download.
And by designers that you're really going to want to see a free pattern from, like Elizabeth Hartman, Violet Kraft, Darlene Zimmerman, Valerie Wells, and Karen Lewis.
That's a great memory. But I can't even speak. It's a good job.
Thank you, thank you. It's my job.
Yeah.
All right, so you can see that we are running out of cutting room because we're running out of cutting room. When we get to the point where we are out of cutting room, I will show you a fun trick. It's not like fun, but you know, it's interesting.
Do you enjoy using a rotary cutter?
I like the rotary cutter. Yeah. Do you not like rotary cutters?
I'm just not very talented at using a rotary cutter.
It's all about practice.
Yeah.
And having a sharp blade.
The blade is more the thing.
No, but it's important that your rotary cutter blade is sharp, because if it's sharp, it cuts through things very easily. Whereas if it's dull, you're likely going to skip, and then that's when you are likely to cut yourself. An important thing to note: if you are using a rotary cutter, always close it when you put it down. It doesn't maybe look like I'm closing it every time, but I promise you I am. I was trained early on. All right, I'm going to again lay my quilt out, look at my next step, look at my color map, see what there is to see.
While you're doing that, can you tell us a little bit about your iron?
Yeah, so I am ironing with an Aliso iron. It's a smart iron. It has sensors in the handle, so it knows when I'm touching it, and when I touch it, the little legs pop up. So you can see the legs pop down because I'm not touching the top, but as soon as I touch the handle, they lift back up. So when I'm touching it, it automatically rests down on its rests down onto whatever I'm pressing, and as soon as I let go, it stands back up. It's great if you have like arthritis or the repetitive motion from ironing is hard on your joints, because you don't have the weight of the iron. Yeah, I really like it. I think it's fun too. Having a nice smart iron. I asked Santa for one year.
It scared me the first time I used it because I didn't know what was happening.
I think an issue with the Aliso irons though is that if you have one, you forget that not everyone else has one. And so you go to other people's houses, or you might be using your backup iron and you leave it flat because your iron stands up. And let me tell you, not every iron stands up. And if the other person's iron doesn't stand up, you'll find out when it starts to smell like burning. And yeah, my pressing station at home may or may not have a really lovely iron shape on it. That's what happens when you forget that not every iron stands up.
That's all right.
Yeah.
I I tried to put that one like a normal iron back.
Likes to stay like this. He's happiest like that. Alright. We are getting there. We are powering through these long seams. Again, if anyone has any questions or wants to chat, I'm here. Sewing and chatting is a lot of fun.
She loves to answer your questions.
I do. I think it's fun. And I'm still just doing my best. I'm eyeballing it, but, you know, ish, lining them up centered.
You were gonna, I'm sorry, I cut you off. Were you saying something?
Seams are long and I'm still not fitting.
Okay, so nothing's changed here. If you were gonna quilt this quilt, how would you quilt it?
I would likely free motion quilt all in swirls because that's my favorite way to free motion quilt, and it tends to be the thing that I quilt on it. Karen had this really cool, like, very modern, sleek, cross straight line design. Didn't that communicate clearly what was done? Neat grid. Quilted onto it. But I think that it's kind of nice because you could do whatever. You have a lot of room to play, so if you're trying like point-to-point quilting, you could practice in the borders, and yeah. If you're just quilting with a walking foot, a lot of guidelines.
And when this is through, I will post another story that'll swipe up to this pattern for those of you who are looking for it right now and do not want to search for it because it's kind of a pain sometimes.
We're going to press again.
So just stay tuned for that. Or you can go hunting through our website.
Or you can just search the giant pineapple. You'll see a little pop-up that says, well, not pop-up, but like a click and drop-down menu, and you just want to highlight projects only, and that will just show you. It'll eliminate a lot of the extra stuff in the search, and it should pop up right away then. Or if you go to our main page, robertkaufman.com, you're going to see this really beautiful banner ad. It's orange. It says Tiger Lily. If you click that, you can say view the lookbook, and there's the lookbook right there, and it'll take you to the Kona page. And if you go to the Kona page and you click projects, it's like the third project on there. So it's an easy one to find on our site right now.
That is true. There are a lot of places you can find it. Thank you for pointing that out. Do you have a favorite batting? And why?
I really like using a Quilter's Dream batting. I was using just other stuff, kind of whatever I had on hand, but the Quilter's Dream was super lightweight and it kept my quilt super warm. So as someone who was cold a lot, it was nice to have a quilt that weighed less than some of my other quilts, but that actually kept me warmer. Is Arika asking all these questions?
No. Arika's giving me, so I only have access to view the Instagram questions, so Arika's sending me the Facebook questions via Post-it notes. So
I just see.
My apologies to our Facebook viewers if the questions are getting answered kind of late.
My view here, I see you. I'll go. What's happening behind the lens? I don't know.
Both of us are just humming our own song. That's great. Great material.
The biggest song I've had stuck in my head lately has been this new song from this relatively new singer-songwriter called Ibex, I-B-E-X-X, and this singer-songwriter has just come out with her second song. It's called Low, and I think it's really great. So, heads up, it's Yael's song, but it's also really great. So,
Karen.
if you're...
I just got a whole new batch of Facebook questions that I'm going to interrupt you
Yeah.
to ask. From Karen, though.
Karen Lewis?
No, Karen O'Connor.
Oh, Karen O'Connor. Hi, Karen.
What upcoming projects do we have to look forward to?
That's a good question. So, I would love to hear, and we actually at Robert Kaufman would love to hear what kind of projects you'd like to see on It's So Friday. So if you've been like really thinking, wow, I'd love to see like a, I don't know, like a dog hat or whatever.
That is the first thing you thought of, a dog hat.
It is. It's the first thing I thought of.
We welcome all
whatever projects you'd like to see on Robert Kaufman. Send us a line. Let us know in the comments, or just in general, send us an Instagram message, Facebook message, what you would like to see us do this year. We're always looking to kind of come up with new fun things to show you. If there's specific kind of tutorials that you've been curious about, or that if you've tried one of our patterns and you felt like this would be really fun to see live, let's talk about it.
She also asked if you could show some good ideas to use arcade panels. So maybe a future project would be a panel.
Yeah. One of my favorite sets of panels that we have lately and that continue to come out, they're called Picture This. Everyone teases me because I make like just kind of random things with it, but I think it's really fun, and I've been thinking about how I can make some panel quilts for my house too. So I think panel projects are always a win.
Anita's laughing at your dog hat idea.
My dog hat idea? I have a cute dog. I think she would make an excellent dog hat model.
Do you think
You
she
imagine
would let
that the
you put
ears.
a hat on her?
Oh yeah. I'm bigger than her. Lucy, sit.
Stay on for all of 30 seconds, but
No, you get a little tie with a little
no.
toggle that keeps attached. A good dog hat will withstand a head shake, you know?
very true.
A dog hat?
That's my experience with dog hats too.
You joke, but you just wait. Yael is a new dog sister. She has a new puppy sister. And I was going to say she's a dog mom, but she's not a dog mom. She's a puppy sister. So she just doesn't know yet what fun it is to dress her dog up in dog hats.
I don't think this
She'll get
dog
there.
would let you.
After we make a dog hat project, she will.
I mean, I'll try. I'll try first. Getting close to the finish line here.
Well, we have 4 more steps.
We're getting really close.
We're getting there. The quilt is getting big. It covers the table. It's getting a lot harder to see the.
We wanted to show it to you from start to finish so you could just get the idea of how long it really takes to make. It's not very long at all.
Yeah. And you can chat with all your friends online at the same time. Or you can watch TV. We can't watch TV here though because we don't have a TV here in the office. It's weird. Can you believe that? No TV at the office.
Do you usually do your own quilting, or do you have somebody else do it for you?
I go back and forth. I can do my own quilting. I like to quilt, but sometimes by the time I finish a project, I just sit there and look at it and go, oh my gosh, it's finally done. It's done. I know that it's not quilted, but it's done.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll think about it like, no, but I should quilt it. And sometimes I'll think about it for a few months and finally go, I'm never going to quilt it, and I'll send it out. But sometimes I convince myself that I do need to quilt it, and then I do. It's very exciting.
So, once again, for those who are just joining us, this is the Giant Pineapple Quilt by Karen Lewis. It's made using our new Kona color, Beer Tiger Lily, and a couple of other Kona colors that are beautiful together. You can find it, if you're on Facebook, you can find it in the link in this post. And if you're on Instagram, you can go to our website and find it there. And I will also add a story after this posts with that link. So stay tuned.
All right. You know, they're getting to be longer seams, so it's a little bit trickier to get.
I thought you were going to show us a trick for when this happened.
Okay. If you'd like a
I'm
trick
sorry, I
for
got
the
really
longer
excited for the
seams,
trick, and
you know you have to trim along that straight edge so you can fold your quilt. It's a trick, and it's really something that if you have less space, it's better for. And this is how you would cut too. But if you were to make sure that it's lined up very carefully, the blue edge straight, then you could cut along that edge.
Karen Lewis is telling you're doing a great job.
Oh, thanks, Karen.
Arika brought that one over especially for you and drew the emoji that went along with the comment.
And
Great
now
work,
when
Arika.
you trim, you'll see that it's straight, but you used less space. So it's a little more time consuming because it's an extra step before you can trim, and this is cumbersome, but we can still manage it, so I'm just going to keep doing it this way at a weird angle. But just know if at home you don't have this kind of space, if you fold along the straight edge here, and as long as it's straight and you're not shifted off at all, then you will get a nice straight trim line. Look at this, look at how big it is. For a quilt that we barely started not that long ago. This giant pineapple is really fun.
Sometimes you just need to do a quick cut. You know, you want to start something and finish it.
Yeah.
What's the longest it's taken you to finish a quilt?
I once spent every day after work for 6 months working on the Farmer's Wife quilt. And that was probably like the longest continually working on project. So I would spend a few hours every day after work. That quilt is...
You weren't continually working on.
Oh. I just finished one that's been sitting in my work in progress pile for like 3 years, but no one talks about that pile, so let's not bring it up.
I'm sorry.
And that was one that I didn't even finish. I sent it to a wonderful quilter friend of mine and said, please quilt this or it will never be done. And she did. Okay, so I'm going to turn this again and again check my color map. We're almost there. We are just now at 5. Woohoo!
How many are there total?
Hmm?
How many are there left?
6. I'm getting very mixed up. So even though I've been checking off where where I've already pieced, as you get further out, it gets a little confusing. Like this is A, this is B, but we're getting there. Don't worry, guys. Not giving up. Okay, it's gonna go like this. So top, left, right, bottom. Got it.
Someone's asking how many UFOs you have.
Right now, I actually only have maybe I have like one that's in progress, really. That's a true UFO. I have a big box of abandoned blocks, and I have 5 quilts that need to be bound. So, that are quilted and finished and just need to be bound. And I look at them sometimes and think, I really should bind you. But then I think, well, I could do something
We
else.
might have to. Guys, if this video cuts out, it's because there's a time limit, and I'll have to
On Facebook or Instagram?
Instagram.
Oh.
Sorry, Instagram both. So you might have to tune back in.
We've never cut off the Instagram time limit.
Yeah, I don't know. It's counting down. This is a new experience.
Feeling pretty good.
Someone's asking how long your ruler is.
This ruler is 24 inches, so it's long enough, but it isn't long enough. Well, so it's long, but it's not actually long enough to cut all the pieces that you need cut in this. Like you'll need to cut a 30-inch strip, so you'll still need to use your mat to kind of gauge where 30-ish inches is.
Okay. While she's doing this, I'm just going to end and save and reset this video so you won't miss too much. Okay, so we'll be right back.
Except everyone on Facebook.
Yeah,
You'll
everyone on
still be
Facebook,
here.
stay there.
Don't worry.
Everyone on Instagram will be right back.
Now, as these seams get longer, because I'm not pinning, I am slowing down to make sure that I'm not doing anything crazy here.
Okay, I'm going back in. Folks, nothing's really changed. We're still here.
Still on the seam. Still do. This is trash. The sound effects help.
For those just jumping back in, she's not done so much since we had to cut out the last
Hey.
one. I mean, she's done a great job, but we haven't moved super far. It's just, you haven't missed.
And right here, I just saw that there's like a little bit of a seam coming loose underneath it. It's not going to come loose further than like 1/8 of an inch though, so I just back tacked over it a little bit, just in case. Just give it a little extra support. No big deal.
Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for tuning in again. We appreciate it. And for all the people watching on Facebook, thanks for sticking it out. It's been a long video, but I think it's going to be really cool when it's all through.
Yeah, we're gonna have a quilt when it's all through.
And you're all going to be like, whoa, it's so big. That's what happened last time. Do you remember? Maybe you guys weren't tuning into our It's So Fridays back in the day, but we made a cozy cotton flannel quilt all in one session as well, and it was pretty awesome.
I think this one is more fun.
Okay,
I like the
think
colors.
The colors are nice. Oh, someone in the last video, which I just remembered, was asking if these are all new colors, and I don't think they are.
Let's look at the list.
A couple of them for sure are.
Tiger Lily, Yarrow, so Yarrow is old. Haze, which I think might be new. Dove, Lingerie, Breeze, Princess,
Those are
Waterfall,
new.
Paris Blue, which is new.
Mm-hmm.
Teal Blue, Celestial, and Tiger Lily. And I don't know if you know this, but Tiger Lily, new color. Limited edition.
Kathy says she loves your haircut.
Thank you. It's really long and I don't have eyebrows right now. So I keep doing this, but you can't see. But then if I do this, you can see my eyebrows.
Yeah, this was a topic of conversation all day, so we're glad
I
to
think
be able
it's
to
really
talk about
funny.
it because she's very excited.
Man.
And I'm sorry, once again, how big is this quilt going to end up?
It will end up being 52 inches by 52 inches, but if you want to keep going, you could keep going and you could make it bigger. You would just, like, after you get longer than, what, with the fabric strips, then you would need to start piecing your strips of fabric together. The beauty of this one is that because the longest strip I think is like 30 inches, you don't have a seam going through any of your pineapple blocks. So if you wanted to make this quilt bigger, I think what I would recommend would be to make the blocks until you thought it was, like if you wanted a 90-inch quilt, then I would make this block until it was 45 inches, and then I would make 4 of them and have a 90-inch square quilt. That way you would have like a cool, interesting, I mean it wouldn't be a single pineapple, but then you wouldn't have any like extra seams in your pineapple blocks.
And for those of you who weren't watching our first video and are just tuning in now on Instagram, this is the giant pineapple quilt by Karen Lewis, and it's a free pattern available on our website. You can find it by going there, or you can wait, and after this video we'll be putting a link in our next story. Do.
Okay.
Great job.
We
Elizabeth.
are getting there, guys. Our stacks have gone down significantly. We only have 2 more regular row stacks and then the cornerstone blocks or the corner unit blocks. So before you know it, this is going to be a completed quilt. What is everyone doing this weekend? Does everyone have a long weekend? Are you going to stay home and sew? I'm staying home and sewing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm excited. I was sick last week, and so I don't feel sick anymore, and now I have all this energy, and so I can sew, and I have all these sewing plans. I just got a new sewing machine.
Tell us about it.
I actually had been working on the 8900, and I decided to change out my machine for an industrial sewing machine. So I have a Janome 1600P. It makes 1600 stitches per minute, which is super fast, which I'm very excited about. And my sister-in-law now has this machine. She's having a good time with it. What are we on? So we just did this. So we're on this. Okay.
She's got it.
Orange, blue, purple. Ooh. Like I said early on, it gets a little tricky where you are lining up the colors if you're trying to do like an exact copy of what Karen designed, which is what I'm trying to do. So it does help to mark off when you've finished that specific part, and it helps to label all your pieces so you know they're in the right spot, because it starts just feeling like you have pieces of fabric and where do they go. This is maybe if you were a pinner, or if you were an occasional pinner, this is maybe the row where you'd start pinning. It's kind of long, it's hard to manage it now. The big thing is that you don't want to pull too much at your fabrics as you go, because you don't want to stretch the quilt into like a weird like.
Susanna's asking how long it took you to cut out all these pieces.
It took about an hour and 10 minutes, and that was interrupted hour and 10 minutes. So if I was just going to sit here and really focus, it would probably take me 45 minutes. It's not hard cutting. It's all consistent 4-inch width of fabric cuts, except for the center, which has one specialty cut thing where you have to get a 10-inch square. But otherwise, you're cutting 4-inch strips, and then it's just about cutting them to the length that you need and labeling them. So really easy cutting, and as you can see, it's easy piecing, and it grows very quickly. It's just a straight 1/4-inch seam allowance. So if you're new to quilting, this one is a really great one to try. Yeah, I would say it's a confident beginner pattern. And make sure you take off your labels, because if you iron them, I don't know what would happen. And it's centered-ish. We are so close to the end. I can see it in sight now. And at the end, you're going to have this amazing quilt. Well, I'll have this amazing quilt at least. And if you do the Sew Friday episode, then you will have one too. What?
Any additional questions about Lakona, about projects, about, I don't know, really anything. Elizabeth will answer any question.
Yeah, let's chat. Are you sewing along with our Sew Friday episode? Look at how big this thing is.
I missed that. Can you do it again, please? I'm just kidding.
I need to press over here. I'm working hard, yeah.
The finished size is, you said
52 inches by 52 inches. A nice square quilt.
Yes, the pattern is on the Robert Kaufman website. You can find it pretty easily by going to our homepage and just clicking on the giant stack of tiger lily that you see there. Or you can go to the Kona Cotton Collection page and look at those projects, or you can just search for the giant pineapple in the search bar.
It is a free.
If you are on Facebook, it is in the post. There's a link. You can go there and download it right now. You'll see, though, when you go, there's a bunch of other free patterns using tiger lily as well that you might want to download.
I think you're going to want to when you see
I mean,
them.
you might as well just download all of them, in my opinion. But
the Elizabeth Hartman mushrooms one is really cute. Valerie Wells has some really inspiring quilting. Like, if you like quilting, that project is really cool on its own too, but the quilting really brings it to life and gives you some ideas of how you can take your art and incorporate it into free motion quilting. Darlene Zimmerman has a really beautiful traditional pattern. Can't lose. They're all really good.
Kyle's waving hello at you.
Hi, Kyle. Kyle is our boss.
She's just letting you know that she's watching everything you're doing.
That's okay. So now is when the folding tip would be good. I know y'all made me show you earlier, but now we've got to a point where if I line everything up, my ruler doesn't actually cover the entire length of this seam. So now I am going to fold my quilt to do the cutting. And again, I'm just going to fold along this this edge and line it up straight. And it's a little cumbersome, so if you just had a really long ruler, it's actually going to be a lot easier, but I don't have a really long ruler, just a sufficiently long ruler. So, and make sure that nothing is bunched up strange or off, because that will throw everything off. And then you're going to line it up and just cut. And you have a nice straight seam.
What if you opened that up and it was cut totally incorrectly?
That would be embarrassing. Not the first time on a So Friday episode I've made a mistake live on air. We try really hard to not make the mistakes.
We figure out the solutions when you do. It's okay.
Yeah. That's how you learn, right?
It's part of sewing.
Yeah. If you don't make a mistake, then I guess you'd think you'd just be really good at sewing if you never made a mistake. I make mistakes. Like the second seam I sewed on this. Oh, the third seam I sewed. If you weren't here for that, you should just go back and watch that third seam when I tell you what not to do, because I just did it. All right.
You're just teaching by example.
It's great. Yeah. This is how you use a seam ripper. Let me tell you, I'm pro level at that. I kind of buy seam rippers, not even kind of, I do. I buy seam rippers everywhere I go, because you know what I always need more of? Seam rippers. That might come from not pinning, but all right. So as you can see, it takes more time to fold between every seam like this. It gives you the same effect. So if you had a ruler that was like, I don't know if there are rulers that are really, really long like that, but if there are, and you have one, you could save yourself a little bit of a headache and trim it. And then you just, okay.
Oh my goodness.
That was a lot of work. We're getting there. Okay. I am using, every time I turn it, I remember that on the second row, the light blue was on this side, so that's how I keep orienting myself with picture. And now I'm just going to look at this last row. This is my last strip other than the corner blocks. And I'm just going to make sure that I lay them out in the order that I want. 2, 2. And now I'm going to sew again. Okay.
This is the final stretch.
We are almost there, seriously. If you are sewing along at home, you almost have a quilt top. Oh, look how long that piece is. This is why people pin. I'm not going to.
Also, for those of you just tuning in, Elizabeth does not like to pin.
I don't.
That doesn't mean that you shouldn't pin if you like to pin. It's all about preference.
When I make garments, I also live on the edge and I just cut the pieces out the first time. I don't trace them. I don't test. If it doesn't fit, throw it away.
Marika is shaking her head at you right now. Marika's shaking her head at you.
I know. Ariga sews garments, and so she's over here like, you do what? That's the nice thing about patchwork, though, you know? Nothing has to fit. It just lays flat. It's nice. We are running out of space here.
I would help, but I can't.
No, I got this. Probably. Okay.
Pattern is called the Giant Pineapple.
every time I change my seam, I'm just rotating to the next side, and I have my pattern pieces already lined up in a row in the order they need to be sewn on, and I'm just laying them out and going for it again. Oh boy.
It's the end of the week.
It is.
Not a long one.
It's Friday.
It's so Friday.
It's so Friday. I'm pretty proud of myself. So another good thing to note about this quilt top, I came into this project with about 3/4 of a bobbin, and it's not even finished yet, so it's doing pretty good. I'm down to probably a little under 1/4 of a bobbin, but for an entire almost quilt top here, that's pretty great. I always love it when I don't have to refill my bobbin over and over and over again. Even though I do have a backup bobbin pre-wound, because one time on So Friday I didn't, and we ran out of bobbin live on air. But I had to.
Oh, that did happen.
Yeah, I had to wind bobbins ever since then.
So many things have happened during So Fridays. Has anybody here been watching all of them? I mean, it's been a while. I remember when the first one was.
I don't remember.
We took a brief hiatus at some point.
I liked the one where we made the lots of scrunchies. That one was fun.
So Friday, we don't do it every Friday. We're going to be trying to do it a bit more frequently, so hopefully twice a month.
Mm-hmm.
And we are doing our best to feature free patterns that you can just download from our website. Occasionally, we'll probably have a designer pattern thrown in, but for the most part, it'll be downloadable patterns that you can just go on our website and download yourself so that you can make the project. Hooray.
Yay! Because there's no better library than a free pattern library. Well, that's maybe not true. Like a regular library is probably pretty good too. But a free pattern library is exciting.
The orange is Tiger Lily. And Elizabeth sews standing sometimes.
I only sew standing while I'm at work. Our sewing station is set up at home. I sit down to sew, but I have a standing cutting table. I think it's a lot better to have a standing cutting table because you have more leverage over your machine. I've cut my finger one time. I was not standing while I was cutting. It was not fun, and I want to avoid it again. So having a lot of control over how the blade is moving and your pressure on your ruler, I think, is a big thing which helps avoid accidents. Yeah. You ask enough people, you'll hear about the rotary cutter stories. Just be careful with your rotary cutter. Always close it after you use it. Safety first. We are almost there. I'm folding the quilt in half, and again lining up these edges here when I fold, making sure that they're nice and crisp and accurate, and then trimming, lining my ruler up on those and trimming the other pieces from that. Which you could avoid this if you had a really long ruler. But I don't have that. This quilt's like, let's go, this is fun, I'm ready to go. No, Quilt, we're not ready yet. Stop.
Are you talking to the quilt?
Yes, well, the quilt is talking to me and I responded, so. Okay. Now we are at this point where we have this quilt top that doesn't have corners. So you can see, like, if this is the top, there's no corners. Or this is the top, and there are no corners. So what we did is the pattern called for a 20-inch square, and you take your 20-inch square and you cut it in half on the diagonal. And now you have 4 triangles. It's like squares now. You have 4 triangles like this. You are going to add them to the corners, and that will complete your quilt. It will be a nice square. So, again, make sure that you aren't sewing them. I guess it's personal preference, but make sure if you want to follow the pattern that you are sewing them to the side that has the 2 seams, because if you sew them to this side, it's the wrong side. It has the seams from the other sides coming in.
Someone's asking where you got your top.
And Taylor.
Hey.
They're very cozy. It's like a knit, it's very soft. Okay. And again, centering it as best you can. If you were a pinner, you could pin, or you could just go for it. I really love this tiger lily color. I think it's a lot of fun.
And tiger lily is available in stores. I bought it as yardage, but it also comes in big packs. It comes in roll-ups, I think, or half rolls. Maybe roll-ups. Really?
Well, oh,
This is how little they are. I believe it comes in.
look, you're just going to want yardage.
You will just want yardage.
Because you're going to want to cuddle with this color. And like mini charm's just not going to be enough. You're going to need yardage. I know, because I love it.
Hey Rika, can you look that up?
My favorite Kona color of the year that we've ever done.
I really like it too. Mini charms, charm squares, and half rows. That's the accurate answer.
What?
So you got this.
Yeah.
I was just cheering you on.
I don't know what time it is, but I'm guessing that within like 10 minutes we're going to have a quilt top. Less than 10 minutes. If it takes me 10 minutes to sew a seam and a half, I'm going to be like... Okay, last seam, and then all we have to do is square up. Take a look at it. This is all that's left. Okay. Excited about it. Now we just have to press. So going back to the old ironing board.
The final press.
Yeah. The ironing board. Well, there's one more thing we have to do. I'll show you why, but we'll press first, and then we'll tell you about it. Okay.
Sorry, guys.
And when I'm pressing, I'm just like running my nail up against the seam to bump the seam in the direction I want it to go. So I don't want it to be like open here and going this way here and this way the other side. So I've got it, I'm pressing the seams towards the color that just got added. So you could press your seams however you want. Not a big deal.
What time is it, guys? I'm trying to get a gauge on how long it's been. It's 3. So we've been sewing for about an hour and a half, and it took Elizabeth about an hour to do all the cutting. So overall, a pretty quick project, and we're basically done right now.
So we are done. We have a quilt top. However, you will notice, oh, it's beautiful. You will notice that these corner blocks are larger than these strips. So the last step is just squaring up your corners. Whoa, I don't know where that came from. So I'm going to just do this. If you have, some people have like really big square blocker units. I don't have those, so I'm just going to line up my ruler with the line that I've been using for this centerpiece, and I'm going to, make sure that's straight. Actually, you could take your 45 inch, well, you could do that, or you could take your 45-degree line it up with the piece that's connecting the orange, the tiger lily, to the next strip, and trim along that, and then you'll know you're going to get a true 90 degree corner. I don't know why that was such a struggle.
It's Friday.
The math. That's one corner squared up. Let's do this again.
What brand is your cutting board? Do you like it? Tell us about it.
It's a Kai cutting board. I really love their scissors. I don't use this one at home anymore. What I found was, it's not that I don't like the cutting board itself, and I like the color a lot, but the markings are in different spots than I'm used to from a traditional cutting mat, and I prefer the cutting mat that has the 90-degree line and the 45-degree line, not 90, 45-degree line. This one has some like cute scallops and stuff, but it's not the markings that I was using. And the 0 starts at the top here and the bottom here, so it goes 0 here, but 0 to 21. So if you are using your mat to measure and cut, which you should not, but I do, it makes it a little more challenging. So it kind of depends on what you're looking for in a mat. If you just want a really beautiful mat that's going to be a self-healing rotary mat, then it's great. If you want to use your marking lines on the mat, then it's maybe not the one that you want. But sometimes it's nice to have the breakup from like a typical green cutting mat. It's nice to have the bright blue. We are getting there. And squaring up corners, I mean, it's a little tedious, but it does make for a beautiful finished quilt, and it gives you the flexibility. When you have pieces that are bigger than you need, it gives you flexibility for if your pieces are maybe not sewn totally straight, or they're a little wonky or whatever. This one is going to be a little wonky. I don't know why. That's okay. Somewhere along the line I was talking, not focusing. Gonna highlight this one. And if it looks like, maybe this isn't super straight, I would just eyeball it. It's a quilt, you're gonna cuddle with it. No one, well, if they're your friend, no one's gonna sit there with a ruler and go, this is a 90 degrees. What are you doing? Just so you know, that's how I feel about quilts.
And the extension table on your machine, did it come with it, or do you buy that separately?
It did. So the 8900 is a quilting machine, so it comes with this beautiful extension table. This actually comes off very easily and then stores, but you could also just keep it on. All right, that's it. We're done. Look at that. Without further ado, this is the giant pineapple. So let me, it's so big. But just like that, I mean, honestly, hour and a half. Ooh, help. Okay.
A+.
Yeah. Now you get to take it home and quilt it and find it and gift it.
Remember, everybody, that you can download this from our website.
And if you've made something with our So Friday videos, keep an eye out, because we'll be putting together a gallery where you can share and the hashtag, and we're excited to see what you sew with us.
Yay! Have a great weekend,
See you
everybody.
next So Friday.